Hello everyone and welcome to a really small or short discussion video about last Wednesday's video, the Wednesday that's just been, which is where I unboxed the Rackmount RAID enclosure, which was a video that received mixed reviews. So what I've got here are a load of questions that were left in the comment section, and I wanted to make a whole video about it really. So I've got, let's take a look, 9 questions, and I've also got 4 points that I'm going to talk about after all the questions. Some of these are simple questions that I could have answered in the video, others are not. So I've been looking forward to doing this, and I do appreciate all the feedback. Before we get started, I really do appreciate all the feedback. That's half the reason why I do this in the first place, to get your constructive criticism and stuff. So I'm really pleased, but I am going to defend myself a little and explain why I bought what I bought, which was the S4FR or whatever it's called by ProAvio, Studio Rack something or other. I'll put it down here because I can't remember what it's called. It's been a while since I did one of these talking to the camera videos, so let's get right into it. And if this is successful, then I may make them in the future when I upload videos that get, you know, mixed reviews or whatever, because it's pretty interesting. So the first question is not actually related. There are some questions that aren't related to the product. When will you get to better/more modern internet connection? When I can afford it, and when it's available, basically. Why not screw the drives in from the side? Because the screws didn't fit. The sides of the caddies, the little drive sleds, are actually reserved for the rollers, the metal rollers that allow the sled to be pushed into the unit, so that's pretty much impossible. Question number 3, what are you doing with that mini ITX NAS style case? Well, eventually I'd like to build inside it. I think that case is wonderful. It's the Fractal Design, I've forgotten the name of it. I may put it down here if I can somehow find out what it's called. It's sitting upstairs, I'm not getting rid of it. I have actually had a couple of emails with people wanting to buy it off me because it's not made anymore and it's quite a desirable case. It's a perfect FreeNAS case. I believe it's got 6 3.5-inch drive bays, so FreeNAS or anything, any kind of NAS operating system or whatever you want to run on it, it is really good. It's also got a really nice, quiet, reliable built-in 300-watt PSU. What if your Mac Mini dies? This is a really interesting question. If my Mac Mini dies, then I literally just plug the enclosure into another device. The Mac Mini sees it as a simple external hard drive. I think a few people failed to understand that the RAID and all of the RAID controller and everything like that is handled by the hardware itself. So when you plug it into the Mac, it sees it as a standard hard drive. So, you know, just like you can with a hard drive or a USB stick, you can take that to any machine, plug it in, and it works. I formatted it for macOS 10 Extended Journaled. I chose to do that. So that means it's, you know, you can see it on a Mac. I can plug it into another Mac and it'll be absolutely fine. And I can plug it in with, you know, eSATA, USB 2.0, FireWire. It wouldn't make a difference. It is purely, all the RAID stuff is on the RAID enclosure itself. It's all hardware based, so the reliability of my Mac Mini doesn't make the shade of difference in terms of data loss anyway. Why don't you get an official Apple server instead of the Mac Mini? I assume this means the Xserve, and that is actually one of the points that I'm going to talk about because I'm going to extensively talk about it, and I will mention that later on in the video. Why not use FireWire 800? Pretty simple. FireWire 400 is my only option on the Mac Mini 2007. Wouldn't a simple 4-bay Synology NAS be faster, cheaper, more reliable, and a more useful solution? I wasn't fully aware that these existed, believe it or not, guys. I'm not going to pretend that I knew everything about them. But taking a look at them, a 4-bay equivalent would be double and some. I believe it would be double the price that I paid for what I paid for that unit, and it was, I believe, £30 or £40 on top again for the 4-bay equivalent. And also, when you buy one of those, you're tied into that system. That is your NAS. That is your NAS server. It connects via gigabit Ethernet, so you haven't got a system in control. I've got my Mac Mini in control, and I can swap out systems as much as I want. You know, I could start using a PowerPC machine for my server if I wanted, and I could still use that RAID array on that computer. I can use it in a very flexible manner. If I got like a pre-built NAS which has a gigabit controller on it and a RAID controller and a gigabit card in it, and it's got its own software and it is basically a NAS box, that doesn't leave much room for flexibility at all. Now granted, I haven't looked into it, but would it be faster? Yes, it would. But speed is something we'll talk about in a bit. It would, you know, be speeds of gigabit with a RAID in one of those, and you could choose RAID 6 and stuff, which, you know, is an advantage, I guess. But yeah, looking at the points I've got written down here, it wouldn't really be ideal because it's not a flexible solution. And I will actually touch on that more at the end of the video in the points. But yeah, it wouldn't be cheaper. And more reliable, that's debatable because the reliability of a hard drive based NAS really depends on your hard drives, because the hard drives are always going to break before anything else unless you got extremely unlucky. So reliability is probably just the same, because I'd put the same drives whether I bought this NAS or I bought this drive enclosure. So it all comes down to the drives really. So would it be faster? Yes. Cheaper and more reliable? No. Why not chuck it in the studio with your studio Mac and then put it on the network? I assume this person asked this because of the whole rack mount debacle, and that would have been a pretty good idea, but my G5 is not on a wired network, so Wi-Fi would obviously be a limiting factor there, and my Wi-Fi performance in my house is absolutely atrocious because of my Stone Age router. So even though it would be cool in a rack up there, not too great, and also it's quite loud, and which you may be able to hear in the background now, and that would not be great in the studio at all, and we'll talk about that again in a second. Final question, how do you make it show the read and write speeds while transferring the file? It automatically does that with screen sharing. If you use file sharing to transfer your files, it'll just show you the time remaining, like any Mac file transfer. If you use screen sharing, it gives you almost like a Safari download kind of box, and you can see the megabytes a second transfer rate, which is great. Now, I've got 4 points that I'm going to touch on. So, point number 1, and this is a point that someone made in the comment section. 26 megabytes a second isn't that great. Each drive should give you 80 megabytes a second. Gigabit Ethernet is around 120 megabytes a second max speed. What the hell is going on? Well, it's fairly interesting because I'm connected to a FireWire 400 bus, meaning that I'm instantly limited to 40 megabytes a second. That is probably my primary bottleneck, because the transfer rate will never, reach full capacity of FireWire. It would never fill the entire bandwidth. I assume there are other limiting factors, and I'm only guessing here. If I upgraded my drives and whatnot, I assume that I'd get a couple more megabytes transfer rate, but if it's all the FireWire 400 bottleneck, then I won't. So, I'm not thinking of using the Mac Mini forever. If I build a newer system or use that NAS box, I can still use this rack mount bit of kit, and I can just connect it via eSATA. If I build in that fractional design case, I'll put an eSATA card in it or something. So I'll get full speed then. It won't be limited by FireWire at all, and I'll still have nice reliability of hardware RAID and stuff. So that's interesting. Point number 2, you could have got a free NAS box set up and running with all the parts you have lying around for less than you paid. Yes, this is true. However, I do not have a mini ITX board suitable. I only have one mini ITX board, and it's very old. So I couldn't have used my parts that I had lying around to build in the fractional case. So I'd have to build in an old PC case, making it really big, bulky, possibly loud, with an old power supply with a big power draw, and then drive mounting would have still been a little bit crap anyway, and it still wouldn't have been rack mount. So from the parts that I had lying around at home, it would have been cheaper, but it wouldn't have made much sense, and it would have been a little bit of a crappy piece of kit, to tell you the truth, guys, because I would have had to find a gigabit card and stuff for these old PCs I have. So, it's swings and roundabouts really. The whole thing is a giant debate. Point number 3, Mac Mini is 10100, what are you doing? It's not. The Intel Mac Mini has got a gigabit Ethernet port on it. The Mac Mini G4s are 10100. And finally, point number 4, for the price you paid, you could have gone with an Apple Xserve. Yes, I could. I could have got an Xserve, I could have even got an Intel Xserve for the price I paid, but let's talk about the Xserve. Let's put the iPad down and talk about the Xserve. The Xserve is twice the size. The depth of my hard drive enclosure is sort of this much. The Xserve is like out of the frame depth. It's a proper long server because you've got the drive bays in the front, then you've got the entire computer. It's a big bit of kit. Okay, no worries, cool. I'm buying a cabinet in the future, so it doesn't make much of a difference anyway. It's nice and thin, one new, 19-inch. It doesn't really matter how far back it goes. Okay, the next point, it's really, really loud. And if you've got a multi-room setup, like a house or something, then that's cool, because you can probably devote some kind of corner of some room where it doesn't matter if there's a loud server in there and it can just chug away doing its thing. At the moment, I'm in my bedroom, and in here I do all of my filming, and I do my listening to music, and I do, I do all the things that you do in a bedroom, sleeping, playing video games, reading or whatever, and to have that Xserve whirring away in the corner all the time is a lot louder than this thing, and I'm not sure how easy it is to change out the fans. And also, another thing is, you've only got 3 drive bays on it. Unless you get a G4 Xserve, which would be pointless anyway, because then I'd be limited by PowerPC and this would have been a better solution all along. It's only got 3 drive bays, so I couldn't have achieved what I want to achieve with this, because this has 4 drive bays. But I'm not ruling the Xserve out of the equation completely, because I have always wanted an Xserve. I always have, because I think they're really cool and I love Apple hardware, and it's one of the only sort of parts of the Apple kind of history that I haven't delved into. So an Xserve will find its way onto the channel one of these days, but at the moment, in my current situation, it's pretty bonkers to go out and buy one, because it's big, it's loud, it's unnecessary. I don't need a quad-core Xeon for my file sharing needs at all. The Mac Mini is even overkill, really. It would be nice to get more RAM in it and have some perks that the Xserve has, you know, like its insane reliability and its, you know, glorious form factor. But this little setup, and I'm pointing at my servers by the way, guys, this little setup is doing me great. So I hope that's cleared up a few things. I will touch on one point that I forgot to write down actually, and that is RAID 5. A lot of people said RAID 5 isn't a good idea. I will admit that I'm very new to RAID, but from what I've read up, RAID 5 seems to be the best option for me at the moment, with it the only possible rival being RAID 6. Now if I could do RAID 6, that would be great. It would be better than RAID 5, but I think RAID 5 will be fine for me anyway. Someone mentioned that you've only got one failsafe drive, so if you bought all your drives from the same batch, then they're likely to fail within hours of each other. And I don't really know how much you have to worry about that, because I'm no expert on hard drive failure rates. You know, I'm not making this video defending myself, pretending to be an expert. I'm just putting it out there saying that I really don't know. But I'm sort of describing my thought processes that went through my head when I bought this unit. So the RAID thing is still a little bit up in the air, but RAID 5 is working for me fine at the moment, and the last 3 videos that you guys are watching, including this one, have been streamed from that RAID setup. So it's working really, really well. Transfer speeds, 26 megabytes a second. I said I'd touch on this again. It's ample for me. It is ample. You know, well done if you guys have got 120 megabytes a second over your network. Round of applause, and I bet it's amazing. But for me, transferring, you know, 2 gigabyte videos every now and again, and I'm just sort of accessing files, which is quicker anyway. Accessing files is in the 30 range, you know, 34, 35. So it's you know, no big deal to me at all. My transfer rate, I'm happy with it, and it's still quicker than transferring on and off certain slow USB drives. So I don't really see a problem. It's fast transfer. It's half the speed than transferring to my Mac Mini desktop, so I can always use that as a dumping ground, because that's got a 500 gig drive if I ever need to do that before copying to the RAID array for whatever reason. But if this setup ends up being less than ideal, which I'm fully open to the possibility, guys, a lot of people said that it wasn't ideal. If it ends up being sucky, then it's not a waste of money, because this 4-bay RAID enclosure, external RAID enclosure with FireWire, USB and eSATA, is one of the most flexible storage devices that I own, if not the most flexible. It is incredible, and if I change the fans in it, if I can figure out how to do that and get a couple of tiny Noctuas or something that are really quiet, then it'll be even better. So I'm really looking to do so. I think it's a great piece of kit to have. It's a very rare piece of kit to have. Not just this model, but this entire type of technology is very rare to have. So I'm pleased with it. I really like it, and I'm a little bit of the reason why I'm making this video is because I was kind of disappointed with the outcome, because I was so excited to share it with you guys. I thought you guys would be really proud of me, you know, getting a RAID array sorted, and, you know, to storing all of my data properly and everything, and finally improving the server setup. And loads of you were really happy for me, and loads of you really like it, and some of you actually defend the whole read-write speed thing and say 26 megabytes a second is absolutely fine. I mean, you know, look at my download speed, for Christ's sake. I'm used to having slow transfer over the network and from the internet. So, you know, like I said earlier in the video, swings and roundabouts, there's no better way to describe it. But I was a little disappointed with some of the comments, so I thought I'd make this video to address those points. All of your points are valid. I'm not having a go at anyone, I promise. The points are incredibly valid, and I do agree with lots of them. But a lot of people mentioned that Synology, is it? I'm not too aware of the company. The NAS, the Rackmount NAS, that would be so limiting because everything is in that one box, and where do you go in the future? I don't know what the expansion is like. I'm no expert, but I'd be much happier going my own way and going this route. And sometimes with me it's not all about speed, it's about entertainment value on the channel, it's about products that work best for me, and also this sort of Mac kind of structure. I'm running off my Mac Mini, and this is a device primarily designed with Macs in mind, and it just looks, works and feels awesome to use, and I'm a really proud owner of it. I've had it for about 3 days now and it's chugging away down there. It's been running 24 hours and it's been great. So I may make a follow-up to this video in the future, or if there's no big ruckus down in the comment section, I'll just talk about it in a future server video as a little extra segment. But this is Friday's video, guys. You've got the whole weekend to relax and enjoy. If you want to rewatch any of the previous videos or just email me or whatever about this server setup, I don't respond to all emails, but I'll give it a go. Also, feel free to carry on being active in the comment section. I could even make another one of these videos to address future comments. And I haven't sat in front of the camera speaking to the camera for a while, so I'm not too used to it, so I hope this video is okay. But anyway, ending the video on a happy note. Really pleased with my setup, and I know that loads of you guys are really pleased too. So I'll keep you updated on how it goes. I hope everyone has a fantastic weekend. Massive thank you for watching, and a huge thank you to everyone that's been giving me advice and help. And I'll see you all on Monday's video.